Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our BT4Europe webinar series, Europe on the Move. Our webinar today is, of course, focusing on A1 simplification. Before we begin, let me briefly introduce BT4Europe. BT4Europe is the European network of business travel associations, representing the interests of business travel buyers and users across Europe. Based in Brussels, we work with the European institutions and industry partners to promote policies that make business travel more efficient, more sustainable, and better connected. Our priorities include the transition to sustainable mobility, advancing digitalization, reducing barriers to professional mobility, A1 being one example, and ensuring that business travel continues to strengthen the competitiveness of Europe. This webinar is kindly made possible by S4BT with their expertise spanning travel technology, hotel sourcing and booking, payments innovation, and sustainability solutions. S4BT continues to contribute to a more connected and efficient corporate travel ecosystem. We are thankful for their support. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to an informative and useful discussion moderated by former MEP Mark Watts. Mark, please, over to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be moderating this important webinar this morning. Just welcome our two key guests, if I may. First of all, Odette Pimenta da Silva, who's been the lead person at BT4Europe on the campaign to simplify the A1 form. Welcome, Odette. And it also gives us great pleasure to welcome Francesco Corti, who's a member of the Cabinet for the Commission's Executive Vice President, Roxana Minzatu. Welcome to you, Francesco. So we should really kick off with the great agreement reached by the Executive Vice President on Social Security reform. So perhaps over to you, first of all, Francesco. Congratulations on reaching that agreement to modernise EU social security coordination rules, strengthen fair labour mobility, and in particular simplify the A1 form. Why, Francesco, do you think this agreement is so important for Europe? And what was the problem it was designed to address? Or indeed, what were the problems it was designed to address, Francesco?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for the invitation and the nice words indeed. We just came back from Luxembourg yesterday, where there was again confirmation of the historic agreement. 10 years of negotiations is quite too much. To close a file. It's good that we close it now in 1 year in office. I think we will have time to go through all the elements, especially when it's linked to PDA1, and it's good that we met in April. We promised something that we deliver, which is the exemption for obligation for PDA1 notification for business trips, which will come later on. But let me maybe just my first intervention say that it's about that, the agreement, so about applicable legislation when it comes to portable documents, but it's much more because this text, which is quite some hundreds of pages, it touches upon everything that is linked to labor mobility, so anything that interests any mobile worker, but not only worker, also the family in the EU. Let me just quickly mention the unemployment benefit because this agreement changes completely the rules that we have on, especially on frontier workers, unemployment benefit. So it will no longer be the country of residence to pay the unemployment benefit, but actually the country of employment, which means that for any frontier workers that so far has received the benefit, let's say paid by France and then reimbursed partially by Luxembourg in the case the worker was resident in France and working in Luxembourg, it will switch the other way around. So it will be Luxembourg, so the country where you have worked, that will be in charge of paying the unemployment benefit. Of course, this comes with a big change, especially for the member states, but also for the workers, because of course the level of the unemployment benefit will be adopted and changed to the country of employment and not of residence. Of course, as you mentioned, a big change will be on notification obligation, and this is what it interests you in particular, because of course business trips will be exempted, whatever the duration, from the obligation to notify portable document A1. There will be also an exemption for short-term posting under the 3 days. So what is not business trips, but is still a short-term posting, they will be exempted from obligation of the notification, except for the construction sector, where the obligation will be from day one mandatory for everyone. There will be changes, and I'm gonna go fast, but there will be changes also on family benefit and long-term benefit. I will not touch upon them because I think it's not the audience, but just to give you an idea. Very important for us, not simplification comes together with fighting fraud and increasing controls. We introduced for the first time a definition what is social security fraud cross-border, which didn't exist as a concept so far. We introduced new obligation of pre-affiliation period to social security for requirements for any worker that is posted. This is an idea to prevent that you just hire and post the day after. We introduce also after 24 months of posting an obligation to at least have a break of 2 months in a way to avoid continuous posting. We have better rules and clearer rules when it comes to cooperation information exchange. We can come later to that. Clearer deadlines and better digitalization. So maybe I stop it here, but I wanted just to give you an idea that today we focus on applicable legislation. But the reason why this file took 10 years to be negotiated is because when we modify something at the European level, it comes with a package. We didn't just modify the portable documents, which of course is very important, and that's what we are going to discuss today. But the reason why we were stuck, it was not because of portable documents. We were stuck because of all the rest, because all the rest comes with money. And especially who pays for what. And so I think it's good that it frames a little bit also our discussion today.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Francesco. Once again, congratulations. Actually, there's a long 10-year wait, but your administration got it over the line in just over a year. So well done to you. And it's important to set the PD1 form in that overall social security context. If I can bring Odette in now, if I may. I know BT4Europe have been advocating for A1 simplification for several years as well, Odette. What do you think was the biggest problem facing companies under the previous system? Just to sort of better understand what was the nature of the A1 form problem for companies in Europe?
Well, the fact that business travelers had to apply for A1 form as well for every business trip cross-border in Europe. So if you understand that some companies have travelers, 8,000 travelers per day on the road, you can imagine how many application forms that can be if it's a cross-border in one of the member states. And it increases and involves a very high level of administration for employers, employees, but also for the social security offices in each country. So a delay, I mean, sometimes you plan a business trip on the spot, and how do you manage then to get an A1 form ready? That's usually doesn't work. And beside that, in the different member states, there are different interpretations when it comes to legal implementations of laws. So each country has a different approach. Some of them also give fines to travelers if they don't show the A1 certificate. So that has a very negative impact on the European competitiveness and the single market, because we all think we have one Europe, so we can travel without any restrictions.
Thanks, Odette, to really give some detail of the problems, many problems facing businesses across Europe because of the A1 form over many, many years. If I could just bring Francesco back here. I know one of the things this new commission is trying to do is have a deeper dialogue with stakeholders, all stakeholders across Europe, including, of course, the business community. Was the work that BT4Europe did and other business organizations, was it helpful in trying to get it over the line? I know we had that great meeting in April in the European Parliament with you. Do things like that really help? Because I think a lot of European citizens think that, what's the point engaging with the European institutions? But I think in this case, engagement and the work we did together actually helped. Would you agree with that interpretation, Francesco, that this commission wants to work with business?
Oh, well, that's for sure. We work with business, we work with unions, we work with workers and mobile people in general. I think what is important of our dialogue is that we understand what we're talking about. I mean, and that's why, I mean, business trips is something, posting is something else. We're engaging also with stakeholders, means understanding what kind of obligation are we imposing to which kind of activity. And that's very important. And Odette, you mentioned, I think it's very important, different interpretation across countries. And one of the elements which I think the new rules at least clarify is exactly what we mean by business trips. Now, it's true, it's not easy to get 27 member states on the same page on what is a business trip. But I think, even though, I mean, now I was having some discussion already 1 month and a half ago, or almost 2 months with PwC or other consultancy that largely do the activity for companies when it comes to PDA1. No, and these are also our counterpart. We have counterpart like the business themselves, and we have counterpart the consultancy that work for the business to make this obligation actually concretely done. And one of the things that they always say, the consultancy themselves that make their business out of this business, out of this obligation, is like, we need to agree on what we mean by business trips. The problem we had before was also, as you said, different interpretation, which led even consultancy themselves to say, look, if you are just below 30 days, just go, which is a problematic, because then if you have some countries like, I mean, that impose fines on not having a PDA1, then this becomes a problem for businesses because it's uncertainty. So to answer your question, yes, it's important that we engage with the mobile workers, we engage with the business. I even engage with the consultancy that do the work for the businesses, to because I think it's important that we have a clear idea of what our rules are in practice. How are they translated into daily work by those one who then ask for these documents?
Yep, thank you, Francesco. And again, it's very encouraging for our audience to hear that it is important to engage with the European Commission. Certainly your Executive Vice President, as you say, is very open to a dialogue with the whole spectrum of stakeholders out there in Europe. If I could drill down a little bit more, if I may, Francesco, on the agreement for the A1 form. You made it very clear, but I think there's always a need for clarity in these things. And I think the big breakthrough, and it really is huge, is that business, as you say, business trips were defined, and therefore you were able to have a situation where there is now no limit. If it's a genuine business trip, there is no duration limit for a business trip. If it's a non-business trip, there is a duration. You mentioned that, and then construction was treated slightly differently. So would you mind just walking us through those 3 different sort of definitions: business trips, non-business trips, and then construction, just to make it really clear to the audience what the limits are?
Yeah, so let's clarify immediately what business trips is. Business trips, I mean, I'm looking up because I have the text in front of me.
Yeah,
it's what is, first of all, what is not business trip? It's not service or good delivery. That's very important. So if it's provision of service or provision of goods, that's not a business trip. A business trip is any activity that an employed or self-employed person does in a limited amount of time. I mean, it's not like a permanent business trips, but that's not the most important thing. As you said, there is not a specific duration to the business trip, as long as it includes like business meetings, cultural, scientific events, conferences, seminars, and activities related to academic research, receiving a training. So whenever you move across Europe and you're not providing a service, you're not maintaining a building, you're not repairing a building, you're not selling a good, but you're just making, I don't know, you're just going across Europe to do a trip that does not entail service or good provision, that's a business trip. And then you don't have a time restriction. Of course, is always foreseen that is a temporary activity. You're not on a permanent business trip, but there is not a duration attached to that. Then if you are posting someone, so if you are sending someone temporarily to deliver a service, then you are subject to different rules. And then in that case, you have two cases. If you are in the construction sector, then you need to have a PDA1 from day zero. So you need to apply in advance. What changes compared to today is that today you have a request for a PDA1 whenever possible in advance. What changes tomorrow is that if you're on a business trip, you don't have to do that at all. If you are providing a service cross-border temporarily, then, well, if you are in the construction sector from day zero, you need to ask for that. In all the other cases, it depends. If you are supposed to provide a service for at a maximum 3 days, well, then you are exempted. If you think that your activity will be for more than 3 days, well, then you need to apply for a PD1. So this is the flexibility that has been introduced.
Great, thank you. It's really clear, Francesca. Over to you, Odette.
Yeah, because that might be confusing. If someone is for a short-term trip for 3 consecutive days within a 30-day period, what if that person is there for 2 times 3 days in that same 30 days? Do you need then an A1 form?
If you are staying for more than 3 days over a month, in 2 different times, you need an A form. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. That's really good. And thanks,
the
Francesca.
idea is that the exemption, you have it for maximum 3 days a month. If you plan to post like 3 days and then you stop 1 day and then again 3 days and again 3 days and again 3 days, well, then you need to have a PD1. Yes.
And that has an impact on people that do maintenance, installation, repairs.
And maintenance, installation, repair are all included in the annex to the regulation among the activities including under construction that needs to be considered as obligatory PDA1 from day one.
Yeah. We are getting some questions into the chat. We do encourage that. Whether we'll get through them all, it depends how many we get in. So one of the questions in, just to be clear, for Francesca, if I may, it may be you just go for 2 days and then there's no A1 for a goods or service trip, as you've explained, but then you go back again, an unplanned second trip later in that same 30-day period. I guess you would only then need to apply for that second trip, because you wouldn't have known for the first trip. So it's that second trip. The question is the A1 only for the second trip within a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Any questions, please put them in the chat, because we need to be super clear on this. I think I'm clear, but over to you, those of you who are listening in. If you've got any questions, this is your chance to get some clarification. Back to Odette, if we may. Obviously, it's a huge win for BT4Europe as well. So congratulations to you and all your members. Which part of the agreement do you think, Odette, will make the biggest difference in the day-to-day business travel? What's the big win for BT4Europe and for your members in terms of practical positive win?
Well, that we have business trip exempted, that's really a win. That is not connected to your job title or the sector, but on the activity. I mean, an engineer can attend a meeting, conference, or a training, doesn't need an A1 form. I think those are the ones that are very important. Yeah. And the exemption for the 3 days as well. We have, yeah, I think these are the most important ones. If I think of it, it makes life more easy and less administration.
Because I know you were originally pushing for a 14-day exemption for genuine business trips.
Yes, because I was very happy that it was not restricted to 14 days.
Exactly. So
yeah.
a huge win there has exceeded your expectations, Odette. If we could go back to Francesco, if I may, because you mentioned earlier you were in Luxembourg yesterday. There's a lot of, as always with these things, European law, it takes time to come into force. So could you walk us through, Francesco, the next procedural steps before these rules actually become applicable across Europe? Just take us through it if you don't mind.
Yeah. So no, that's very important that you get it right. So there are a couple of more procedural steps from a legislative perspective, meaning that the formal vote of the plenary in the European Parliament is foreseen next week, either the 7th or the 8th of July. So the vote. So far the steps have been the COREPER, so the member states representatives have confirmed the agreement on the 29th of April. Then the week after in May, the Parliament voted in the Employment Committee, which is the competent committee. Then the text went into lawyer linguistic. This is very important because it's good that any administration get this right. I mean, the Dutch, the German, so in any language, Article 15 and the definition then related of business trips is well translated in all countries, otherwise you get some problems. So this has been done early June. Now the vote to approve the text is foreseen next week in plenary, and then it will be formalized in September by by the Council. After that, the legislation enters into force. Specifically with regard to applicable legislation, which is covered by Article 15 of the implementing regulation. This enters into force 2 years after the approval of the regulation, which means from 2028. That's quite important because it gives still 2 years before this enters into force, which is the 2 years that the administration have to actually put in place the regulation.
Thanks, Francesco. Very important to understand that process and make sure, obviously, all those steps are completed satisfactorily. And good luck with all that. There's still some steps to go. I know you're pretty confident this will get through, but it's important to understand it won't come in tomorrow. We're getting quite a few questions in the chat. Apologies if we can't answer them all. Some of them are quite detailed and technical, absolutely important and right. If we can't get back to you now during the conversation, we'll get back to you afterwards. But thank you. Some of them relate to, for example, what's the definition of effectively of a construction activity, for example. And I would urge everyone after this call to look at the text, because I think the text actually is very, very clear, and you should look at the text first and then reach your conclusions, but we will try and get back to everyone if we can. If I may bring you back in, Odette, Francesco's very clearly outlined what the legislative process is now. In the meantime, what should companies be doing? Should they wait for implementation, or should they start preparing for the new regime?
They should be preparing and not wait. And also, I would advise each individual country, if you don't have a representative within BT4Europe, lobby with the legislation in your country who is responsible for A1 and for Social Security legislation, so that they don't take the maximum 2 years that they have. So if we all do that, but it's a decision from each country individually, and they have 2 years to make this legislation adapted to the existing one. So this is something that we all have to take into account, and which is important. But meanwhile, employers should continue to comply with the A1 requirements for now, because if you don't come in a country where you can get a fine, you still get that fine. And I would advise the companies to prepare internally with HR, with your tax representatives, and with the travel managers to look at your travel process. Where did you have A1 requirements in your process, and adapt it already to the new situation, which can be from within the coming 2 years. yeah, and then the guidance from the administrative commission, yeah, can show borderline cases. So let's see what comes out of it in the end, because legislation can be there, but the practice can be different. I see some questions in the chat already that some things are not clear, and I get that, because A1 is not only for business travelers. A1 is a part of the Posted Workers Directive, which is applicable to construction people, to expats, to people that work on projects, and HR is responsible there together with their taxation lawyers to get all the paperwork done. And unfortunately, we had over the past few years that business travel were included in this legislation, and now this is coming to an end. I hope this clarifies a bit the questions in the chat for now. But yeah, so don't stop and wait until legislation is
very
adjusted.
Clear. Yeah, don't wait. That's your message, Ode. Yeah. And indeed, we'll put the final text, provisional final text, in on LinkedIn when we post this recording. We'll do that, and we'll try and answer some of the questions. And if need be, we'll work as BT4Europe, get back to Francesco and his colleagues to answer any other questions that we can't answer today. It's important to keep this process going. If we can, Francesco, Ode, now look to the future. Next steps, really. Just on terms of the simplification agenda, Francesco, I know there was some concern that simplification might mean that we weaken worker protection. But do you agree this is a good example, actually, where we've strengthened the single market, but actually you haven't weakened worker protection at all? In fact, quite the reverse. It's a good example where simplification can work for workers and for businesses. It's a win-win. Do you agree with that, Francesco?
I think that this agreement on the coordination of social security rules is a very good example of where the rules have been changed for the benefit of the workers and for the benefit of the employers alike. And the fact that both social partners at the European level have been advocating to support this agreement, and there is quite a good consensus that it is a fair balance, a text. I mean, it's something very important to us. The fact that there has been so far a majority, quite a big majority in the council as well as in the parliament, also certifies the fact that there is a balance, and we need to work in that direction. And the executive vice president has always been clear. Simplification does not need to go against, but along with and hand in hand with strengthen social rights. So we the two things go hand in hand. The next step you have asked is digitalization. We come in September with the proposal to fully digitalize portable documents, so including PDA1. We know that practices change across countries, also in the speed of delivering a portable document. So we have now clarified the rules on when it is needed and when it is not needed. I've read quickly a question about what is construction. There, I think the easiest thing is just really to go to Annex 6 of the regulation that defines what is indeed construction and gives a clear definition of that, of all the activities that fall under constructions for those who are interested in. But back to the next step, as I said, now that the rules, and hopefully the plenary will confirm this next week, and then it will go through the council for the formal approval. The next step we come with is to fully digitalize. I mean, we have the means to really speed up delivery, but also controls. I mean, again, digitalization is for the benefit of speeding up the process, but also for the benefit of real-time verification that there are not abuses or falsification of portable documents. I mean, and that's why I think it's an important next step to the proposal for European Social Security Pass that we will come forward in September.
Great, thanks, Francesco. Really exciting stuff in terms of the next steps there. Odette, bring you in, if I may. This is, of course, part of BT4's broader agenda to simplify and improve business travel in Europe. What would you think the next priority for you will be in terms of improving cross-border mobility? Is digitalization one of your priorities for the future, Odette?
Yeah, the first one on my wish list, and also harmonizing implementation across the member states would be awesome. And reducing the remaining administrative barriers that there are still there. Because in the end, it all strengthens Europe's competitiveness. And yeah, we all want Europe to be the easiest and the best place in the world for legitimate business travel, won't we? I think
exactly. Yeah. So you've got a busy, exciting agenda ahead too, Odette, to continue that campaign with BT4Europe. We're now running out of time, so just maybe some final words from you both. But it's been enormously important, enormously interesting, enormously exciting. Few comments in the chat we haven't got back to you. Some are saying, could we have a recap email? We'll try and do a recap email for everyone to capture the key points here. Also, as Francesca said, we'll do a link to the full document, because many of the answers are actually really clear, in my view, in that document. So we will keep this conversation going, Odette. I think I can probably say that on behalf of BT4Europe, if that's okay. But final comment over to you, Francesca, before we bring in Odette. If you could leave today employers and employees across Europe with one key message, what would it be, Francesca? What would be your final message to workers and businesses on behalf of your executive vice president?
Well, the message is that we must promote fair labor mobility. That's the name of the package that we will launch in September. Mobility should be free and should be fair. And fairness is measured in different ways. First of all, in making sure that whenever you go in Europe, you're protected in your social rights. What you don't want to happen in Europe is that you go in another country, you have an accident at work, something happens to you and you're not covered. And second, that you are able to freely move in the single market. And that's very equally and very important. So we need to make sure that the two key principles, fairness and free movement, are going hand in hand. And that's what we are trying to do with simpler rules. Simpler rules are also better enforceable rules. And that's the easiest thing. The clearer are the rules, the better we are able to enforce them. And that's what we are trying to do while guaranteeing a free movement and fair movement across Europe.
Well, that's very clear, Francesca. Free and fair, I'm sure we'll all support that, and we wish you well in the months and years to come as you continue your work on behalf of businesses and workers across Europe. Thank you so much, Francesco. Odette, final word to you, if I may. Looking back over the past few years, what does this achievement mean, do you think, for BT4Europe?
Well, for me, this means that working together with policymakers and stakeholders, that in particular, to start with, to get everyone aligned on the same topic, and that we can show what we are aiming for is very important. We consistently brought practical experiences of employers and business travelers into this legislative process. And I think that we can be proud of what we have contributed to this outcome. But, well, as was said more often today, this agreement is not the end of the journey. I thought it was, but it isn't. And I'm happy to continue my work on the A1. But this is the beginning of implementation, which is also an interesting journey. And our focus will be to help ensure that the new rules will deliver the benefits across Europe for all of us traveling.
Well, thank you so much, Odette. Once again, thank you, Francesco. Been a really informative 30 minutes. We'll keep the conversation going, Odette. Sounds like the work's going to continue. Thank you, Patrick, for your opening introduction, to S4BT as well for their sponsorship. And above all, if I may, on behalf of BT4Europe, thank everyone who's joined the call today. Continue working with us, and we'll keep you posted on all the exciting developments to come. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.